Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pratik Karelia, and I'll be your host for today's session. So, this is the third session, and it will be on aircraft designs and analysis. There are some few instructions we would like to share before the session starts. Kindly close all the other tabs and applications which you have opened so that you won't be distracted through the session. Second one is whatever queries or doubts you have, put it up in the comments. Um, Keep yourself muted the whole time during the session. Only if the speaker or the host asks you to unmute, you guys can unmute. All the doubts will be cleared in the Q&A session, which will be held in the last 15 minutes, right? So at that time, you guys can put your questions down in the comment, or you guys can either unmute and you guys can speak. Okay. So Sunny, next slide. Okay, so today's session will be there are two speakers, one Sunny Bagre and Pranjal Bhushan. So these both will be giving you the basics of the aircraft design and analysis. So I like to hand over it to Sunny. You guys can start.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So I'll start the workshop right itself. So today we are after completing the session, we are going to upcome with these four objectives: the overview of the aircraft design, its basis, basic knowledge of CAD, CAM, CAE, then an overview of aircraft analysis, which will be held by Pranjal, and like a basic overview of how to operate the software for these purposes. That's what we are going to do in today's workshop. So let me start by asking the first question. What do you think is the very first step in the design of an aircraft? You can unmute, or you can write in the chat box also. I'll be seeing your responses. The specifications needed. Okay. No requirements. Okay. Any more? Visibility and stability. Great. Okay, so then we'll move forward, and I'll like to verify. Let's see if you are right or not. So the first thing is defining the problem. So I guess Sanjay was the one who gave the closest answer to this. So congratulations, Sanjay. So defining the problem. So what are the basic requirements of your plane? I mean, when you make your plane, okay, let's say you have made the plane. What is the demand of that plane? Why you have made that plane? It comes under the problem statement. So you have to know why you are making the plane. What is the main objective that the plane is going to overcome? It is like a good stable plane for, hovering around, or like a maneuvering plane for some kid to play, or like a payload carrying plane which lifts weights, drops weights, anything. It can be anything. And based on that, you have to break down that problem and define the requirements. So first of all, we come to the conceptual design. So what is the conceptual design? So as I said, whatever is your problem, according to that, you have to see different types of plane. You can see different sets of plane that people made, or you can come up with your own idea of how the plane will look. You can visualize it. There are different possibilities of how the plane can look. There can be a fat belly, a thin belly, a large wing, a small fuselage, anything. It can be anything. A double fuselage is also there. And depending on your different possibilities, you come up with an initial design of how your plane will look. Okay, how your plane will look. Now, you know how your plane will look, what purpose it is going to meet, but can it run? How to run it? How will you make it fly? That's when you come to the third step, that is the technical research. So what happens in the technical research is You know what is the width of a wing, how it is calculated, and how it correlates to the fuselage where you are attaching it. All these things, everything comes under technical research. Let's say, for an example, this is a fuselage, okay? This is a rough fuselage, and this is your wing, okay? Let's leave tail for now. So now you can see that roughly this wing is rectangular, right? So this is the top view of the aircraft. So when you see that this wing itself, it's a rectangular, it's called a rectangular planform. But then what happens if I make the I make the wing like this. Okay, this is your horizontal, and this is your wing, this much, triangular type. It's swept backwards. So you have changed the geometry of the wing. So why you have changed the geometry of the wing? This angle, why you have kept this much angle? Does it have any advantage? Yes, it has advantages, and all those advantages you may know only if you start studying. You have to study regarding technical research. So once you do that, you can properly design a wing, a fuselage, a tail, everything, and you will know why you have designed it that way. So then we come to the next step, preliminary design. So whatever you have, so you had your conceptual design, right? You knew how your plane is going to look, fat belly, small belly, and everything. Then you came to the technical research. You found the dimensions of the wing. You know the dimensions of the fuselage. You know the dimensions of the tail, how they are going to attach, how much the tail is going to be, you know, how it is going to be placed inside your fuselage. All those comes in the technical research. So you combine your conceptual design and you combine your technical research together to make your preliminary design, or basically a proof of concept, or in simple words, a CAD model, as you can see here. Now this model does not look that good, but yeah, you have to make such models. I mean, better models. Then comes your aircraft analysis. So you have made your model. Now what? The problem lies is whenever you make a model, you consider everything ideal. Okay, there's like ideal air, ideal velocity, everything is ideal. But whenever you go to fly a real aircraft, you know that there are so many variables. There are external factors, there are weight factors, there can be moist in there that can deteriorate your quality of the material that you're using. So accordingly, you have to manage your plane aerodynamically, structurally, and according to the performance and stability. And that is all overcome in analysis. Now, aerodynamics and performance stability, you can do that through softwares, but structurally, you have to actually see that what can you reduce the weight of your aircraft. You know how much through technical research, you know how much lift your wing can carry. So depending on that, can you make some few changes in your structure to make it more feasible. So in this way, analysis plays a huge part in making a plane readily available for your detailed design. And your detailed design is something like you are at the end of your design. You won't make much changes over here. This is your final design, which are either going to for fabrication or for assembly, or like you can make a prototype out of it depending on what is your basic requirement. So in small summary, in a very short summary, whatever I told you, it was quite long or quite short. So in small summary, if I explain you, so we did some research and requirements of what our plane is, what we want it to be. Then we had the conceptual design, we added the specification in it, and we changed the conceptual design and we found the preliminary design. Then we did some analysis over there and we found the detailed design. Now, if you see these two arrows, like you may be thinking, what is the meaning of these arrows? So increasing design flexibility and increasing level of detail. So you may be come to know that when it comes to conceptual design, you have a pretty raw model of your plane. You don't even have sometimes model, but when it comes to preliminary design, the model is ready. raw, but it is more detailed compared to conceptual design. You have your dimensions, you have your angles attached everywhere. And when it comes to detailed design, it is much more detailed in terms of the structure, in terms of how it is going to be manufactured. So when it comes to the detailed design, you can't make much changes. For example, let's say I am made a plane and it has a wing, and during the detailed design, okay, I'm just going to manufacture it, and during that time I come to know that if I had used a different airfoil for the wing, the wing would have been much better. But airfoil is the basic step, the foundation of your entire wing. If you have to change the airfoil, you have to make the entire wing from scratch, so it will be pretty messy to do that all again. So whatever big changes you have to make them in the first steps itself, during the conceptual and preliminary design, and during the detailed design you only have to make small reforms. So after that we go to your fabrication and testing, so basically manufacturing. So are you aware of the softwares or applications which are used for this? Any software? What are the names? I mean, most of you will be knowing about SolidWorks because I told about it. So can you name some of them? I'll see your responses. CATIA, AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Fusion. Samyak, what is NX? I also haven't heard about NX. That's good. You guys know a lot about softwares. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of softwares. You can use any of them, but SolidWorks is like the most used software. Like for 2D CAD, we use AutoCAD. For 3D CAD, we mostly use SolidWorks only. So still, if you 3D software, it might be good, like if you go with it, but for flexibility in sharing work with each other, it will be better like if a lot of people stick to one single software. Okay, so let's proceed. So CAX, CAX, what is it? So as I mentioned in the objectives of this workshop, you are going to learn about CAD, CFD, and CAM. So what is CAD? Anybody? CAD to chalo, okay, many of you may be knowing. So can you tell what is CAM, CAM, or CFD, or CAE? Okay, CAE. What is CAE? Full form, obviously. CFD पता है? नहीं, full form. Computer aided. Okay. गूगल कर रहे सब. Okay. Okay, so design is your CAD, analysis is your CAE, means computer aided engineering, and CAM, computer aided manufacturing. That comes is obviously manufacturing. So I'll cover your CAD part. Okay, so CAD part comes in two parts: 2D CAD, which is your 2D modeling. So if you see this model, I guess it won't be that hard for you guys to make this model in a sheet of paper, right? But what if I say that you need to make this model 10 times on your sheet? It can be easy, but it will be long lasting. I mean, pretty long lasting. I'll have to give you deadlines for that. That's why for such tedious tasks, I mean, at industry level, it is very hard to make sheets. So for purposes, people tend to use softwares to make 2D CADs and then print them out as sheets. So yeah, that's about 2D modeling. And then comes your 3D modeling. So as you can see this Airbus A320, you see this solid model of this plane. Okay, this is not a detailed design. Okay, we had three design: conceptual, preliminary, and detailed. Any guesses which design this is? Preliminary, conceptual. Okay, good. Okay, this actually is neither preliminary nor conceptual, but it's good that you were there. So it's somewhere in between. Okay, somewhere in between. So as you can see, this is like a solid body. So solid bodies are used for analysis, flow analysis basically. So Pranjal will tell about that. So after this, I'll like to proceed to SolidWorks. So I'll stop sharing this tab and I'll move to your SolidWorks program. Okay. Tell me if my screen is visible. Sure. Okay. So is my screen visible? Ah, I guess so. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So this is the basic interface of SolidWorks. Whenever you open it, this is the first thing that you are going to see. So for now, I'll make a part. Okay. I'll make a part. Now you see this part right here, the feature manager. Okay, here comes your part name. It's part 5, and you can name it anything when you save it. And there's different sets of options. So here's your front plane, here's your top plane, and here's your right plane. So like whenever you're designing it up, or I mean 3 dimension, it's 3 dimensions. So I guess 3 planes are enough for that. So let's take one plane. Okay, I'll take the front plane. So let me ask just this basic question. Like you guys know rectangle, right? Or let's say you guys know cuboid. So the sectional view of a cuboid is a rectangle, right? And then the sectional view of a cylinder is a circle. So what is the sectional view of a wing? पूछ रहा हूँ, बता नहीं रहा, पूछ. Airfoil. Airfoil. हाँ, yes, it's airfoil. That's right. So if I think, let me design a wing. So I guess, as I said, we have to make an airfoil. Okay. So you can see here, okay, this is features, sketch, surfaces, sheet metal. Okay, so I'll click on sketch. I'll click on line. Okay, this is a line tool, and we have here so many options as sketch, horizontal orientation. We don't use it as much, but we can use the options. Okay, so you can see here's for construction, infinite length, and midpoint line. So for now, I'll choose for construction. Why? I'll tell you, and a midpoint line. Okay. So when I choose a midpoint line and I select a point, that point becomes the midpoint of your line. So I'll make a horizontal line. Okay, horizontal construction line. Then I'll make another construction line, but this time I'll make it vertical. Okay. So it's like I got my axis for the 2D part, right? So I got 2 axes, the horizontal and the vertical. So it will be pretty much easier for me to make anything. So whenever you use your airfoils for making wings, you actually import them through coordinates from airfoil tools. Now that is a big step. Okay, big step. Just like in simply using a curve, I'll just make an airfoil. Okay, which looks like an airfoil. Okay, so this is a spline tool. Okay, I selected this. So this is a spline tool. Okay, I just selected a random point in the horizontal axis, a random point in a vertical axis, and I made the curve like this. Okay. Now I choose trim entities and I trim the excess part, and I got kind of a curve over here. Now I'll make another curve similarly, but first of all I'll just fix this one. Okay, I'll fix it. Fixed. Then I'll make another curve similarly. Okay, I'll start from this point and make it here, and let's say I'll keep it like this. Okay, I'll trim the excess part. and I'll fix this. I'll make it tangent to this one. Okay. So this is one line, a curved line. This is a second curved line. Okay. I selected both of them and I found this. See, make tangent fixed, add equal curvature, etc. So I'll just keep it tangent for now. And as you can see, a tangential curve is drawn. Okay. Now uh, I need to make a symmetrical apple. Okay. So the one thing that I have here should be here also. So instead of drawing everything again, which will not be symmetrical, I just select this line. I'll select this line. I'll select the horizontal line. And under the sketch pane, you see mirror entities here. And if I click mirror, it's mirror. So I'll just fix these two. Okay. And I'll remove the fix of these two. Okay. So okay, and so now you can see the sketch is black. So when it the sketch is black, it means it is fully defined. Now how do you say defined? It is defined when all the constraints are there. Like I did not put the dimensions here, right? But I fixed this. So whatever happens, okay, whatever I do, this curve will not move. It will be fixed at this point. Similarly, this curve is also fixed. And I like this, I fixed all the curves. So there's no need of putting any dimensions. So once you start getting familiar with the software, you start getting easily doing all this stuff by yourselves only. You don't have to ask why this was done. Okay. So I'll save the sketch. Okay. So you can see this is a front plane. I'm actually pressing scroll. Okay. Pressing scroll, I can rotate it freely in the 3D space. Okay. So it's actually I am rotating the camera, not the object itself. So this is the front plane. I made a sketch on that. I click the sketch. Then here it was go to features and extruded boss base. And you can see a from direction 2. Okay. So I'll click on direction 1. It's blind. So what blind does is if I put it 20 mm, it will get become a solid body with 20 mm height. So instead of that, I'll choose mid plane. So if I put 10 mm, it extrudes 5 mm 5 mm from each side. Okay, so I'll just increase that to like random length for now, because let's say this is our conceptual design. Okay, so this is a pretty thick and bad, but a wing for us. Now I'll make pretty quickly another part and another part. Okay, I'll choose a plane, or let's say stick to the front plane only. I'll choose the front plane. I'll draw a circle. Okay, I drew a circle. Okay, just like I drew a line, I drew a circle. And this time I'll give it a dimension. So you can see here a smart dimension it is given. So I click on this, I click on the circle. So it gives me the option to put a diameter on the circle. So let's say for now it gave it 80 mm for now. Now I'll draw a line in between the circle, a horizontal line. And due to some reason, if I'm not able to draw the line horizontal, I'll just click on the line. I get several options here, out of which one is horizontal. So I'll click on horizontal, and now the line is horizontal. So I'll just dimension the line. Okay, from the center. Let's see how much it goes. Okay, I'll keep it 25 mm for now. Now I'll trim the excess part, which is the top part. Tick, and features extruded, and we will extrude it like this, and okay, let's keep it a little small. Okay, and tick. Okay, so it's pretty bad, but as I said, it's a conceptual design. So this is our fuselage. So I'll save this. Okay, I'll save this part. and desktop, new folder. Okay, takar, takar, takar. And I'll name this fuselage. Okay, it's named fuselage, and I'll close this. Let us save. Now I had my wing. I'll save this also. I'll save it as wing, and the wing is saved now. Now the best part. I'll click on file, and here comes an option make assembly from part. So I'll click on that, and here it comes. We come to an assembly. So I'll just click anywhere in the space, and my wing is fixed here. Okay, my wing gets fixed here. As I said, when I rotate it using scroll, I am rotating the camera. I'm not rotating the object. Okay, so now you can see when you are in assembly. Okay, this is assembly mode. Since I chose an assembly, when you are in assembly, you get the assembly. When you are in part mode, instead of assembly, you get features. So now here we'll click insert components, browse. I'll select my fuselage, open, and I put it here. Okay. Now this fuselage, it is not fixed like the wing, so now it can move. Okay, so this time the part is moving, not the camera is moving. So I'll just rotate it. How to rotate the object? I have to rotate it using right click. So I'll click on it using a right click, and I'll rotate it, and see it rotates. If I rotate it using left click, it moves, and if I rotate using scroll, the camera moves. Okay, basic terminology, basic shortcuts. So this is the fuselage. Okay, you can see in this manager we get the two parts, a wing and a fuselage. So the fuselage, I'm going to click on the front plane, and in the assembly I'm going to click on right plane. Okay, for now let's take right plane and make it parallel. You can see the fuselage is now parallel. If I rotate it, see it rotates like this. It does not rotate, horizontally. It rotates, sorry, it does not rotate regarding a vertical axis. It rotates with a horizontal axis. And now I'll just keep it like this for now, like this. And fuselage, I have a front plane and right plane. Okay, right plane. I'll select two extreme edges of the wing, and I have another mate called the symmetric mate. Okay, whenever you keep parts together, you get the option to mate. So I click on symmetric mate, and see the wing is now symmetric to the body. Now the body is moving up, down, only up, down, or forward. Oh, it moves on forward also. So instead of doing all that, we'll just keep it in a proper position. Okay, like for us, which is proper, and we'll just right click on fuselage and click on fix. So now you can see it is fixed. Both components are fixed. So this is a pretty bad but a basic SolidWorks initiative of making a wing and a fuselage. And I can guarantee you this will not fly. But it was pretty enough to make guys sure that how we can go around here. So there's elliptical, there's airfoil. Can we change color? Yes, we can change color. Okay, so it should not take time. So I'll just show you how to change color. So I'll click on a face, and you can see a house, a dippa, a folder, palette, and then this colorful ball. I click on the colorful ball, and you can see plastic high gloss. Okay, this is a red high gloss of plastic. Okay, I click on it, drag it over here, and see face, pause extrude, body. Okay, body, I see the entire fuselage is red in color. If I had clicked on face, only the top would be in color. Okay. I guess that would be enough for now for SolidWorks. So let's come back to the PPT. So where were we? Okay. So after this, what do you think is the significance of 2D CAD? We'll end the CAD part on this. What do you guys think is the significance of 2D CAD? You can type in the chat box any sequence, anything you feel like. We saw we use the airfoil to make the wing. So depending on that, what do you think is the significance of 2D CAD? ओ भाई सर के ऊपर से चला गया. नहीं, give me a basic idea. Okay, good. I thought I will not get any answer, but that's good. You will get an answer. Give basic idea about an model. Yes, that's great. I mean, like if you are pretty bad at your 2D CAD, I don't think it will be to like easier for you to model something. So yeah, work on your 2D CAD. Obviously, you have your engineering drawing in college, so put a little bit effort over there. And I'll end over here and hand my screen over to CA Pranjal. So Pranjal, take over the session for me.
Okay, so hi everyone.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, Pranjal, we can hear you.
Yes, Pranjal, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay, so hi everyone. I am Pranjal Bhushan. I am a technical member in Team Phoenix Aero, and I'll be covering the analysis part. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's visible.
so
Yeah, it's visible, Pranjal.
yeah, so we'll be covering the second aspect of CAX, which is CAE. The full form is Computer Aided Engineering, and it consists mainly of four things, which is computational fluid dynamics, finite element analysis, multi-body dynamics, and durability and optimization. But before we start off with this, I'll like to ask, what if we fabricate our aircraft right after the CAD team designs the aircraft? What if we fabricate the aircraft right after that? Does anyone wants to answer that?
Remember, fabricate means manufacturing.
Fabricate, yeah, manufacturing.
Sir.
Yeah. Sanjay, right?
Yes.
Go on.
Yes. Sir, the aircraft we designed theoretically, sir. We cannot encounter some real life problems like everything, sir. But theoretically, helicopters can flew by only propellers by top swinging wings, sir. But there is a gyroscopic effort which can be unless only in real life. So we need some practical extra situations to analyze before manufacturing.
Yes, exactly. I mean, what if we have a design and it doesn't fly? I mean, if we fabricate it right after designing and the model is not fit for the real world, it will be just a waste of resources and time, right? So that's what CAE all about. So first I'll come to computational fluid dynamics. So basically it's used for fluid testing of aircrafts. I mean, how it will perform in mid-air or whenever there's a flow of fluid over any surface, I mean. And then the second part is finite element analysis. It is basically used for structural analysis of any model. So it basically divides the entire model into small cells, and each cell is analyzed using some mathematical model to give a result of any physical model you see. And then the third one is multi-body dynamics. So multi-body dynamics is basically it contains solid bodies which are joined to each other, which restrict their relative motion. I mean, if you see any piston or that all can be considered as a multi-body. And then the final thing that comes under analysis, that is durability and optimization. I mean, how it will perform in the real world, that all comes under this section. And we'll move forward. So I'll give a brief introduction to CFD. I mean, how any fluid, I mean, what all aspects are governing the nature of any fluid. So the very first aspect is conservation of mass. So I hope you all must know the, was someone speaking? Okay, no.
Pranjal.
Yeah. So basically, I hope you must have heard about the continuity equation and all that. So it all basically uses conservation of mass. So conservation of mass is used in, I mean, these equations are used to solve the various aspects of CFD. The second aspect that governs the nature of any fluid, that is Newton's second law. You must be aware of this equation: force is equal to mass into acceleration. This basically gives the conservation of linear momentum, which is, the fluid particles, whenever they are moving, the linear momentum is always conserved. So this is the second aspect. And the third aspect which governs the nature of any fluid, it is conservation of energy. So you must have heard that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So this is the third aspect which covers the nature of any fluid. So moving on. So how does computational fluid dynamics works? We will first cover CFD, then we'll come to finite element analysis, which gives the structural analysis of any model. So whatever we do first is we specify all the boundary conditions, and all the flow conditions are given: the initial velocity, what is the inlet velocity, what is the outlet pressure, and all that. And after this, the governing partial differential equations. There are some set of differential equations which are solved to get and simulate the results which are needed. So generally for fluid situations, it is the Navier-Stokes equation. So the Navier-Stokes consists of two partial differential equations which describes the motion of any viscous fluid. So Navier-Stokes equation, it mathematically basically expresses conservation of momentum and conservation of mass for Newtonian fluids. If you like to know about Newtonian fluids, Newtonian fluids are fluids in which the shear stress and shear strain between the different layers of fluid, they are linearly related. So that is what Newtonian fluids is all about. And then when we specify all these equations and we replace these equations, the partial differential equations, with different random numbers. We know the initial conditions, the initial velocity and all that. So we replace these equations with numbers, and then we move forward in space and time so that we could generalize these equations and get a particular result of this. So yeah, that's it. And after that, we get a final, whatever it is required, the flow field, whatever we want, that is obtained after that. So that is how computational fluid dynamics work. Yeah, so one more thing, how does computational fluid dynamics work? Okay, so in this, I'll tell you how Navier-Stokes equation is generalized. So basically, I haven't seen any universally generalized solution for Navier-Stokes equation. So it is basically solved and generalized only for a few shapes. Like in this case, you can see a fixed volume, which is a cube, and generally Navier-Stokes equation is solved for a particular shape. In this case, it is a cube. So as you can see, we know the inlet conditions. This face, you see the inlet face of the cube, that the inlet velocity at this point is known. So we specify the conditions, which is the inlet velocity, and then we come to, we use the divergence theorem to create a surface integral, and the surface integral creates a flux. We use it to write it as a flux, and then it gives the flux on all these surfaces. This surface, this surface, this surface, and this surface. So we can write the outflux, and then this outflux for this cell, it is considered as the influx for the next cell. So all these cells are generalized, and we have a generalized equation for all. See the complete model which for if we have an aircraft, then we divide it it is divided in different small cells, and then the Navier-Stokes equation is solved for each of these cells. Moving on. So yeah, that is what I was talking about. So as you can see, this is meshing. This is basically ANSYS. It is the main software that we use for analysis. And here, as you can see, the complete model is divided into small cells. This cell is a tetrahedron cell, and the Navier-Stokes equation is solved for all of these cells. I mean, the complete model is divided into millions of cells, and the equation is generalized for each of these cells. So as you can see, it is a part of a wing, and we have performed an analysis on this part. So as you can see here, the cell is very refined. The cell is not as refined in the outer region. So whatever part we need to analyze, we need to make sure that the cell is very fine over there, so as to get a more accurate results. So I mean, the finer the meshing, the more finer results or more accurate results we'll receive. So yeah, that's about it. Moving on. Yeah, so this is one of the analysis results that we have calculated. So as you can see, this is a part of a wing, and this is the aileron of the wing. So this is the top part of the wing, and this is the bottom part of the wing. So as you can see here, if you see the static pressure contours, the pressure over the wing, as you can see, is very low, and in the bottom part of the wing, it's pretty high. So these are the expected results, right? The pressure underneath the wing should be high, and on the top part should be pretty low, so as to generate the lift. And as you can see on the tip of the wing, the pressure is pretty high, as the fluid particles, they are striking directly over this part. So yeah, this is the pressure contours, and you can note that the pressure is pretty low here. It's mildly high over here, and it's pretty high underneath the wings. So yeah, that's the pressure contours, and we expect all these results to come, because until and unless we receive these results, we are not sure whether the wing will generate lift or not. So yeah, moving on. In this part, I'll show you the structural analysis. Just imagine whether if this bracket, it is used, for example, in the landing gear of the aircraft. So we need to be sure that it will remain intact and support the entire aircraft. So can anyone tell me, like, which of these two brackets will be subjected to lesser deformation? Can anyone reply?
अब बोल रहे 2 second, second 1 second, second,
Yeah,
second
okay,
2.
yeah,
Right
nice.
one.
So as you can see, if you see the graphics, the total mesh deformation, this deformation comes in meters, okay? So as you can see, the mesh deformation is pretty high in this bracket as compared to this bracket, just because there's a rib attached to the bracket. So the entire load, which is in this case, I'll tell you the loading was done. The loading was done in this direction, okay? So whatever deformation will come, that will come in this direction only. So in this case, the deformation is pretty high, and in this case, the deformation is pretty low, as you can see from the total mesh deformation. And just because there's a rib attached over to the bracket, the load that is applied here, it gets transferred to the fixed support. And yeah, I mean, we need to be very sure whether the bracket it will remain intact when it is attached to a landing gear of an aircraft, right? So this is the case. This is how we test how the structures will remain intact or not. Moving on. These are the softwares which are used for the analysis part, basically CAE overall. These are some of the softwares. This is Simula, Abacus, SolidWorks simulation. The basic software which we use is ANSYS Workbench. So ANSYS Workbench, I'll show you how it works. Just a minute. Okay, I hope my screen is visible. This is the basic
Yes,
interface
it
for.
is.
This is the basic interface for ANSYS Workbench. this is the project schematic. Herein all the projects which we perform, any analysis that we do, that comes over here. And as you can see, different systems which are used for analysis part. Basically, what we use is ANSYS Fluent, and this is ANSYS Fluent, and the second one which we use is Static Structural. So this is used for structural analysis of aircraft, and ANSYS Fluent, it is used for the fluid analysis of aircraft. So I have here a part of an aircraft, which is an elevator. I have performed the analysis, and I'll just go through the results so you can get an idea how basically ANSYS Workbench works. Okay, so this is the design modeler. Basically, ANSYS has two modeling softwares. One is design modeler, and the second is Space Claim. So I'll be using design modeler here. It is a pretty heavy software, so it will take some time. So yeah, basically, as you can see here, this is a part of an aircraft, which is the elevator, and I have created an enclosure around it because this is the region where the fluid flow will happen. I don't want the fluid to flow all over the space, so I'll restrict it using this enclosure. The fluid will flow only across this enclosure. As you can see, this is these are the parts which have been included in the model. The first one is the enclosure, it's the region where the fluid flow will happen. The second one, which is very important, we create a Boolean. It's a subtract Boolean. So basically, I'll show how a Boolean works. We had a solid model over here, and when we enclosed and create a subtract Boolean, we basically remove the solid material from the entire enclosure. As you can see, there's an empty part, which is the elevator, and it has been removed from the entire it's the entire model. So yeah, that is what a Boolean does. I'll just delete this section plain. Yeah, and after that, what I do is I'll have to specify all the boundary conditions. I mean, these are the shear walls. These are the walls of the flow. This is the inlet. This is the inlet of the flow, and this part, as you see, this is the outlet. So this is a velocity inlet, and it is a pressure outlet. So that is how we specify all the conditions before the analysis is done. The second very important thing that we do before an analysis is meshing. I told, right, we create small cells in which the equations are solved. I mean, there are different mathematical models which are solved for each of these cells. There's a generalized equation created, and that's how we get a required fluent field. So second thing that we do is meshing. I'll just show how meshing is done. It will take some time, as meshing is a very heavy software. Okay, so basically, as you can see here, there's just a minute. This is the entire model. This is along with the enclosure and the Boolean created, and then we'll just show you so yeah, this is the meshing. This is when we divide the entire model into small cells, and the equations are solved for each of these cells, which gives us the final result of the analysis. So this needs to be very fine. I mean, the exterior can be not that fine, but the model which we need to analyze, that should be very fine so as to get very accurate results. So I'll show you how fine is the interior part. So yeah, as you can see, this is the elevator that we needed to analyze. This is the fine meshing. I mean, this is just for your display, but it should be more fine. I mean, all these parts, the leading edge, the trailing edge, this should be very fine so as to get a very accurate result. I'll show you how it is done. So yeah, basically, when you right click on mesh, you'll get this option insert, wherein you can select the method, the sizing, the contact sizing, the refinement, face meshing, and all that. Using method, you can change whether it should be a tetrahedron meshing or a hexadominant meshing. So that all can be controlled from here. Sizing can be increased or decreased for any. This is the default sizing, but you can increase or decrease so as to get a more finer mesh. And yeah, this is how it is done. This is the meshing part. I'll show the complete model. This is the meshed model, and it is completely ready for an analysis. Okay, so next we'll move on to the analysis part. Okay, so I have the analysis done, so I won't go to the setup one. I'll just show you the solutions. Okay, I'll come to the questions right after I'm done with the session. We'll have a Q&A session. We'll answer all the questions in the session. Okay, so this is the basic layout of ANSYS Fluent. Whatever analysis is done, it is done over here. I'll just wait till it gets loaded. Okay, so this is the model which we wanted to analyze. The elevator is somewhere between, and as you can see, this comes in blue, this comes in red. You must why is it so? So this is, as I told you, when I opened Design Modeler, I have specified the conditions. This is the inlet for the entire model, and this is the outlet for the entire model, and these are the shear walls. So I have already specified all that, and from here, firstly, I'll show you the results of the analysis, and then I'll tell you how I did it. Okay, so if you want to see any graphics, you'll have to come to graphics. The pressure contours I showed you in the PPT, right? That comes from here only. So I'll show you the pressure contours. I'll show it for the walls already. Yeah, so basically, this is the elevator, and as you can see, these are the pressure contours. As you can see, the place where wind is striking, I have specified the fluid as wind. So as you can see, the leading edge where the fluid was getting stuck to the elevator, it has a very high pressure, and slowly when it goes over the elevator and underneath the elevator, the pressure gets reduced, but not to much an extent. And other than that, if you want to see the velocity contours, I'll show you that too. This is after the analysis, right? So I have already done the analysis. These are just the results. So yeah, these are the velocity vectors for the elevator. As you can see, just a minute. So you can see velocity vectors, and these are the vectors, and the velocity magnitude that is given over here. As you can see, when the air, it is moving above and beneath the elevator, the velocity is increasing substantially and then it gets decreased. So yeah, basically this is how we get to know how the elevator or any other assembly that we need to analyze will perform in the real world. These are the results, okay? And apart from that, if I want the forces which are acting on the model, I can get that too. So yeah, as you can see, I'll open force reports. I have already specified what all reports I need to create. I have already initialized that I need to calculate the lift force, the drag force, and the pitching moment of this model. So just a minute. As you can see, these are the local coordinates. Okay, this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, and this is the z-axis. I hope it's clear. Not, I'll just show you. Just a minute. Okay, so these are the coordinate local coordinate axis. This is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, and this is the z-axis. So if I need to calculate the forces, so as you can see, the direction vector has been given a unit vector in x direction. So it will basically calculate the forces which are acting in the x direction. So which is basically the drag force. So if I print it, and this is the console, okay, I get all the results over here. So the force which is coming in the x direction, it is 0.04102 newtons, which is the total forces. I mean the sum of pressure forces and the viscous forces, and this is the coefficients. So as I know, this is the drag force because it is acting in the positive x direction, and therefore I'll know that this is the coefficient of drag. Okay, this is the total coefficient of drag value, and this is the total drag value, the total drag force. And if I want to get forces in the y direction, which is basically the lift force, because I know the forces acting in the y direction will be created because of lift. So I'll just print it over here. And as you can see, this is the total lift force and this is the total coefficient of lift. You can see basically it is very close to zero because this was a symmetric airfoil, right? Just a minute. This was a symmetric airfoil. So and this was tested at zero angle of attack. So if a symmetric airfoil is tested under zero angle of attack, the lift value comes almost close to zero. It should be zero in the ideal case, but you see it is almost equal to zero because of some abnormalities while modeling the elevator model. So yeah, that's it. And one more thing, whenever we have the model, the complete model which I showed you, we need to set up before we perform an analysis. So we need to specify the model. So herein, for this analysis, the most generally used model for CFD purpose, it is a K epsilon turbulent model. So it is the most commonly used in CFD, and it uses two transport equations, which are basically partial differential equations and are used to generalize the Navier-Stokes equation. And I'll tell you what are the two transport equations. The first transported equation consists of a variable with turbulent kinetic energy, and the second transported variable is the rate of dissipation of turbulent kinetic energy. So this is it. I selected it from here. As you can see, the K epsilon model. This is used for the most of the CFD analysis purpose. And the next thing that we need to specify is the materials. So as you can see, the fluid was specified to be air, as the model was to be analyzed when air would flow over it. And the second is we need to specify what is the model made up of. So you can choose between a number of substances like aluminium, wood, etc., whatever you want to specify. And after that, you need to specify the boundary conditions. Okay, so as you can see, I have already mentioned what is the inlet, the place from where the air would enter the outlet from where the air would enclosure, and I've also specified the walls, the shear walls. Okay, so here you can see, yeah, so this is the velocity inlet, and you need to specify all the values which are needed to initialize, I mean, the velocity magnitude you need to specify beforehand, so as to I mean, otherwise the model won't be solved, because you need to specify what are the initial conditions. And after that, I'll specify what is the outlet condition. Outlet is, it is a will be at the atmospheric pressure. So yeah, that's the pressure outlet. And apart from that, I'll mention what are the walls. The shear walls were the walls of the enclosure, and I'll specify the condition as no slip. It will be a stationary wall with no slip conditions, because I don't want the fluid particles to have any shear force between the fluid and the walls. So yeah, these conditions are needed to be specified. And after that, I need to specify, I have already specified that I need the pitching moment value, the lift values, the drag values. So you need to specify all the values that you need to calculate. So you can add any new value using this. You can have any surface report, any volume report, any post reports. Like here, you can see I've already included drag, lift, and the pitching moment values. And apart from that, if you're using a heat transfer model, then you'll have to specify the total heat transfer rate, all. So
Pranjal, we
you'll
can't hear
have
you. Your
to.
voice is breaking.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, it's clear now. It's clear.
Yeah, okay. So when we are performing the analysis, we need to specify the number of iterations that. So the calculations will be performed 100 times, and the more the number of iterations, the more accurate the results we will get, because the differential equations are generalized, and over a period of iterations, it is converged over to a single value. So yeah, to get pretty accurate results, we need to have more number of iterations, but it's restricted to the thing, because uh, it is a very graphic intensive software, and it takes a lot of time to perform the analysis. So if I'm using 100 iterations, then also it will take a lot of time. So the number of iterations should be chosen wisely according to the device that we're using. So yeah, that was something about analysis. This is how ANSYS is used. I'll come back to the. Yeah, so the third aspect of CAX comes out to be CAM, which is computer aided manufacturing. It consists of 3D printing, laser cutting, and all that. When we give an input value to the design model, I mean, whatever design model we have, give it for the analysis, and after that, we give the design to computer for manufacturing. 3D printers and other stuffs are attached, then manufacturing process is done. All these things will be covered in the next session, which is manufacturing. And apart from that, I'd like to ask a simple question: that do you all agree that knowing how to use a design or an analysis software makes an engineer skill to the best?
Guys, unmute and
You
speak up.
can speak up, or you can type in the chat. Okay, send
In
me
some
a
extent,
slide.
it makes
In some
engineering.
extent. Actually, I mean, anyone can learn a software, right? So learning a software, I feel like it doesn't makes you a very good engineer. You can be called a skilled worker, but not a good engineer. If you know how to use the softwares to analyze real world problems, you know the basic science, how any software works, and you can use the softwares to solve real world problems, then I'll say that someone is a good engineer. Okay. So just by learning any software, that doesn't makes you a good engineer. You need to know how things works. Okay. So yeah, now we'll be moving to the Q&A.
And tomorrow we'll be having two sessions, which is session 4, which will be on aircraft structures and testing, which will be from 4 to 5, and session 5, which is on avionics, which will be from 5 to 6. Okay, so that's it, guys. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
And good evening.